Welcome back to Coin Collector's World, the place where tiny pieces of metal turn into giant treasures, where history lives in the palm of your hand, and where every coin has the power to amaze. Today's story is about one coin that looks so ordinary, so common, so everyday, and yet, under the right conditions, it can shock you with its hidden value. That coin is the United States Washington quarter dollar from the year 1965 with no mint mark. At first glance, it's just a quarter. A coin you might toss into a vending machine, leave on a cafe counter, or find rattling around at the bottom of an old drawer. But as every true collector knows, not all coins are created equal. And when it comes to this particular quarter, there's a tale of transition, mystery, survival, and unexpected wealth. Let's travel back to the United States of the early 1960s. Up until that time, quarters had been made with a beautiful composition of 90% silver and 10% copper. Silver gave the coins their bright shine and intrinsic value. For decades, Americans trusted the silver quarter as not just money, but also as a miniature piece of wealth. But by 1964, silver prices were climbing higher and higher. People weren't just spending coins anymore, they were hoarding them, melting them, and taking them out of circulation. The government knew it had to make a dramatic change, and so in 1965, the U.S. Mint began producing a brand new kind of quarter, no longer silver, but instead a clad combination of copper and nickel. This was a turning point in American coinage. Imagine the shock at the time. Suddenly, for the first time in history, quarters were no longer precious metal. Millions upon millions of the new clad quarters were struck, flooding circulation. From a distance, they looked similar, but anyone who loved the feel of silver could tell the difference instantly. The new quarters had a different ring, a different weight, and over time, a different color as the copper edges began to peek through. Now here's where the magic begins. While most 1965 quarters were ordinary, some extremely rare examples were struck differently. Some may have been produced on leftover silver planchets by accident. Others were struck with unusual precision or saved before they could be worn down. And since Philadelphia was the mint producing them at the time, there was no mint mark at all. To a casual spender, a no mint mark coin seemed totally normal. But to the trained eye, it opened the door to a world of possibilities. Collectors quickly realized that condition was everything. The vast majority of these coins circulated heavily, passed from hand to hand, losing their sharp details and shiny surfaces. But a handful were carefully preserved, perhaps tucked away in a drawer, perhaps forgotten in a bank roll, perhaps held onto by someone who sensed something unusual about this new issue. Those survivors became the prizes that modern collectors dream about. Think about this. You could search through tens of thousands of 1965 quarters and never find one worth more than face value. But somewhere out there, hidden in plain sight, a few extraordinary pieces exist. Coins struck with crisp detail, blazing luster, nearly untouched by time. Coins that grading services look at under magnification and award top marks. Coins that auction houses showcase with pride, knowing that collectors will battle fiercely for the chance to own them. Over the decades, stories have spread of lucky discoveries. Someone buys an old collection at a garage sale, only to notice a shining 1965 quarter among the dusty nickels and dimes. Another person opens an inherited box of coins and finds what looks like a common quarter but turns out to be something else entirely. Tales like these fuel the excitement of the hobby. Because if one person can find such a treasure, why not you? Now let's talk about the thrill of the hunt. Imagine opening a roll of quarters from the bank, expecting nothing more than pocket change, when suddenly you spot a coin with unusually sharp features. The eagle on the back spreads its wings in perfect detail, the lettering shines without wear, and the date 1965 stares back at you without a mint mark. Your heart skips a beat. Could this be the one? You hold your breath, you do your research, and slowly it dawns on you that this simple 25-cent piece could be worth far more than its face value. Collectors love the 1965 quarter because it represents a moment in history, the end of silver coinage and the beginning of something new. It's a symbol of change, a reminder of how quickly the value of money can shift, and a challenge to those who dare to look closer at what others overlook. For some it's not just about the dollar signs, it's about holding a piece of history in your hand. But for others, the dollar signs are very real. Auction records confirm that these coins have brought astonishing prices under the right circumstances. The most stunning examples, preserved in nearly flawless condition, command attention like rare works of art. They are graded, encapsulated, displayed, and treasured. And when one of these elusive beauties goes up for sale, collectors know they're not just buying a coin, they're buying rarity, prestige, and a once-in-a-lifetime piece of American numismatic history. So the question remains: what is the ultimate value of the 1965 Washington quarter dollar without a mint mark? After decades of searching, after countless collectors have hunted and dreamed, after auctions have driven bidders into a frenzy, the number has been revealed. One of these rare coins in superb condition has reached the staggering price of $70,000. Today we are going to unfold the long and fascinating journey of one of the most exciting finds in American numismatics, the Washington quarter dollar struck in 1970 with the Denver Mint mark. This is not just another coin you could spend at the grocery store or toss into a jar, it is a piece of American heritage with a value that goes far beyond 25 cents. Let us begin with the roots of the Washington quarter. The United States first introduced this coin in 1932 to honor the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. From the very beginning it was intended to be more than just a piece of currency. Sculptor John Flanagan designed the obverse featuring the strong and noble profile of the first President of the United States. His vision was to capture Washington's dignity, strength, and the spirit of leadership that laid the foundation of a new nation. On the reverse side the eagle spread its wings in a bold display of freedom and vigilance. This design remained a part of everyday life in America for decades, and generations of Americans handled these quarters without ever realizing that someday certain years and mint marks would become the subject of international fascination. By 1970 the Washington quarter had already been circulating for nearly 4 decades. Millions of coins were being struck at different facilities of the United States Mint, including Philadelphia, San Francisco, and Denver. Among these, the Denver Mint held a long tradition of producing high-quality coins for everyday commerce. The Denver facility, represented by the tiny D mint mark, was known for its precision and reliability. But it was also known among collectors that even the most careful minting process could give rise to unusual pieces that slipped through the cracks and went unnoticed by the public. The year 1970 was an important moment in American coinage. The era of silver in quarters had already ended 5 years earlier, in 1965, when the mint moved to clad compositions to save costs. By 1970 every Washington quarter was struck in a copper-nickel clad blend. This change meant that people who had grown up with the shine of silver coins were now using a different kind of metal. To most Americans, the change was barely noticed. But to collectors, the transition from silver to clad meant that every year and every mint mark deserved closer attention. And indeed, out of that year came one of the most intriguing stories in the history of quarters, the 1970 D mint mark variety. At first glance the 1970 D Washington quarter looks like every other coin from the time. It weighs the same, it carries the same design, and it was used in the same way. But in the hidden world of numismatics, small details make all the difference. Collectors began to notice unusual features on some of these Denver-struck coins. There were tiny differences in the way the coin appeared, sometimes linked to the dies used in production, sometimes to errors or overstrikes, and sometimes to circumstances that were never supposed to reach circulation at all. These mysteries gave rise to a hunt, a search for something rare and valuable hidden in plain sight. When you think about coin collecting, the magic often lies in the combination of rarity, condition, and demand. Millions of quarters were produced in 1970, but only a few have captured the spotlight. The Washington quarter from Denver that year stands apart because examples have been discovered showing unusual traits that set them apart from the sea of ordinary circulation coins. One of the most famous discoveries involved quarters struck on leftover proof planchets or over foreign coins, accidents that were never meant to leave the mint. These coins tell us that even in a system designed for mass production, accidents happen, and those accidents can become treasures. Collectors began spreading the word. Suddenly, The ordinary-looking 1970 quarter was no longer just another pocket change coin. It became the subject of magazine articles, numismatic journals, and coin show discussions. People were searching their old rolls of coins, jars passed down from grandparents, and inherited collections hoping to stumble upon one of these mysterious pieces. Dealers kept their eyes open, and auction houses started listing them when found. What once was a common coin worth 25 cents now carried the thrill of possibility. Imagine holding a handful of quarters from the 1970s. To most people they are nothing more than change. But to a coin collector who knows the signs, one of those coins could be the key to an incredible discovery. This is what makes the story of the Washington quarter so exciting. Every coin has a history, but not every coin carries the potential of life-changing value. The 1970 quarter does. It reminds us that hidden treasures exist in the most ordinary places. The Denver Mint itself has a long and proud history. Established in 1906, it quickly became one of the busiest mints in the country. By 1970 it was striking billions of coins, from pennies to half-dollars. The workers there could not have imagined that among the countless coins they produced, a few would go on to achieve legendary status in the world of collecting. Yet that is exactly what happened. The D-Mint mark on the 1970 quarter has now become a symbol of rarity and intrigue. What is even more astonishing is the transformation in value. For most coins, especially those still within living memory, the journey from pocket change to a collector's prize takes centuries. But the 1970 Washington quarter achieved fame in only a few decades. From being an everyday coin of the 1970s, it rose in prestige until it began selling in auction houses for amounts that could only be described as astonishing. Collectors, investors, and enthusiasts all competed for the chance to own one of these historic pieces. The beauty of this story lies not just in the money but in the passion behind it. Coin collecting is a world where people dedicate their lives to the study of history in their hands. Every coin tells a story of design, of metal, of government policy, and of national pride. The Washington quarter of 1970 with the D-Mint mark tells a story of surprise, of hidden rarity, and of the thrill of discovery. It is more than a coin, it is a symbol of the hidden treasures all around us, waiting to be noticed. As the years have passed, the legend of this coin has only grown. It continues to inspire new generations of collectors to look more closely at the change they handle every day. It continues to prove that not all treasures are buried in the ground or locked in vaults. Sometimes they sit quietly in your pocket, waiting for the right person to notice. And now we reach the question everyone always asks. What is the true value of the 1970 Washington quarter dollar? The answer has shocked and amazed collectors for years. Because this coin, this seemingly ordinary quarter, has achieved auction prices that most people would never believe possible. In the world of coin collecting, it has been valued as high as $60,000. Today, let us step into the fascinating world of the Washington quarter dollar, focusing on the year 1988 and the Denver Mint, marked with the letter D. At first glance it looks like any other quarter you might have in your pocket right now, but as we unfold its journey, you will discover why this ordinary-looking coin has captured the attention of collectors, historians, and treasure seekers all over the world. The story of the Washington quarter begins long before 1988. It goes back to 1932, a year chosen to honor the 200th birth anniversary of George Washington, the very first President of the United States of America. Washington's legacy was carved not only into monuments and books but also into coinage, ensuring that his face became a daily sight for millions of Americans. For decades, this quarter circulated through hands, shops, gas stations, schools, and banks, becoming an inseparable part of everyday American life. By the time 1988 arrived, the Washington quarter was already a legend in circulation. The Denver Mint, symbolized by the D-Mint mark, produced a vast number of coins that year. The Denver Mint has always been known for its large-scale production, creating coins that travel across the nation. Yet within these countless coins lies something much rarer, the small percentage that manages to stand out due to perfection, errors, or unique conditions that elevate them from being simple pocket change to being collector's treasures. Think for a moment about what happens when a coin is minted. A metal blank is struck by a die under immense pressure, capturing fine details of design. But in this process, tiny variations can occur. A slight misalignment, a double strike, a weak impression, or even a die crack can create something unique. For collectors, these small imperfections are not flaws, they are treasures, because they represent rarity. Add to this the survival of coins in pristine, uncirculated, near-perfect condition, and you suddenly have something the world is willing to pay thousands, even tens of thousands of dollars for. The Washington quarter of 1988 with the D mint mark has examples that fall exactly into this category. A coin that looks just like any other to most people may, upon expert grading, reveal a perfect strike, immaculate surfaces, and flawless details that set it apart from the millions of others. These coins are graded by professional services, and when a coin reaches the highest levels on the grading scale, its value skyrockets beyond imagination. Coin collecting is not just about owning metal. It is about owning history, artistry, and rarity. Imagine holding in your hand a quarter that has survived since 1988 in nearly untouched condition. It has passed through decades where others were worn down in circulation, scratched, or lost, but this one survived as if frozen in time. That survival story is what makes collectors crave such coins. Let us paint a picture. In 1988, Ronald Reagan was president, the Cold War was nearing its end, American culture was booming with music, cinema, and technology, and quarters jingled in the pockets of everyday citizens. They bought soda, paid for arcade games, and were tossed into pay phones. Little did anyone imagine that one of these very quarters would one day become worth a fortune. And what about the Denver Mint itself? The Denver Mint has been producing coins since the early 1900s, and it carries a reputation for precision and volume. But no mint can ever guarantee absolute uniformity. Within the millions struck, the rarest gems emerge. For the 1988 D Washington quarter, some of these gems have become symbols of wealth and rarity in the numismatic community. Collectors often share stories of finding unexpected treasures. A simple coin jar in the attic, a dusty roll of quarters stored away for decades, or even a handful of change given at a store, these are the places where treasures hide. The thrill comes not only from the financial value but also from the sheer excitement of discovery. That is why the hunt for the 1988 D quarter in top condition remains alive today. Now, let us talk about condition. When we speak of coin grading, the scale runs from poor condition all the way to mint state perfection. The higher the grade, the closer the coin is to how it looked the very day it was struck at the mint. Flawless coins in mint state with dazzling luster, strong details in Washington's hair, sharp edges, and untouched surfaces are what collectors dream about. Only a tiny fraction ever reaches this standard, and those are the coins that make headlines in auctions. Imagine the surprise when collectors realize that a coin as modern as 1988, something many people take for granted, could carry such value in the right condition. It is not a silver coin from the 1800s or a colonial piece from centuries ago. It is a modern quarter, and yet its story, rarity, and survival have lifted it into the spotlight. So the next time you pick up a quarter, do not overlook it. Look at the year. Look for the mint mark. Study its shine, its details, and its wear. Because every coin has a story, and some stories are worth more than you could ever imagine. And now comes the moment you have been waiting for. Among the Washington quarter dollars minted in 1988 with the D mint mark, the rarest and most flawless examples have shocked collectors with their staggering worth. In the world of numismatics, this coin has achieved the incredible value of $45,000. Today, we are going to uncover the fascinating story of a coin that has surprised collectors and made headlines in the numismatic community. The United States Washington quarter dollar from the year 1998 with the Philadelphia mint mark, also known as the 1998 P.At first glance, this coin seems like nothing special. It's just a quarter, worth 25 cents in everyday transactions. You might have tossed one into a vending machine, dropped one in a tip jar, or maybe even lost one in your couch cushions without giving it a second thought. But among those ordinary quarters, there exist rare examples that can change your idea of pocket change forever. Let's rewind the clock for a moment. The Washington quarter first appeared in 1932, created to honor the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. The design was meant to be temporary, but it struck such a chord with the American public that it stayed in production far longer than planned. Over the decades, the quarter became a trusted companion in daily life. It jingled in pockets during the Great Depression, bought snacks during World War II, and became part of countless everyday stories in American households. By the time we reached 1998, the Washington quarter was at the end of an era. It was the last full year before the United States Mint launched the legendary 50-state quarters program in 1999, which changed the world of coin collecting forever. That means the 1998 quarter holds a special place in history. It represents the final chapter of the classic eagle reverse design that had been used for decades. When you hold a 1998 quarter, you are literally holding the end of a numismatic tradition. Now, let's focus on the mint mark. The P stands for Philadelphia, one of the most historic and significant mints in the country. The Philadelphia Mint has been producing coins since the birth of the United States mint system, and in 1998, it struck millions of these quarters. But here's the secret every collector knows: even when millions are minted, not all are created equal. Some coins come out of the presses in near-perfect condition, while others carry minting errors that make them unique and highly desirable. This is where the real magic begins. A coin's value doesn't just depend on how old it is. It depends on its condition, known as grade, and on whether it carries any unusual features. Coins graded at the very top of the scale, shiny, flawless examples without scratches or wear, are incredibly rare. Add to that any striking errors like double dies, off-center strikes, or unusual finishes, and suddenly you have a coin that collectors are willing to chase at any price. Imagine a room full of seasoned collectors, eyes glued to the auctioneer, hearts racing as bids climb higher and higher. A simple quarter, something you might pass over without a second glance, suddenly becomes the star of the show. The atmosphere is electric, the excitement undeniable. This is the thrill of numismatics, discovering beauty and value where others see only the ordinary. Think about how many 1998 quarters have been tossed in jars, scraped across countertops, or buried at the bottom of purses. Most are battered, worn, and destined to remain nothing more than 25 cents. But out of those millions, only a handful survived in pristine, untouched condition, coins that gleam as though they just left the mint yesterday. These are the coins that tell a different story. These are the coins that spark treasure hunts across the nation. Collectors spend years searching, carefully examining, flipping coins under magnifying glasses, hoping to stumble upon one of these hidden gems. Some even dedicate entire collections to modern quarters, focusing on subtle varieties and high-grade examples. And when one of these near-perfect 1998 P Washington quarters appears on the market, it becomes the target of passionate bidding wars. This isn't just about money. For many collectors, it's about history, legacy, and the pride of holding something so rare that few people on earth will ever see it. It's about knowing that what looks like an ordinary coin is actually a bridge between everyday life and the extraordinary world of treasure collecting. And now comes the moment you've been waiting for. While most 1998 P Washington quarters will only ever be worth 25 cents, the rarest, most flawless examples in pristine condition have stunned the collecting world by reaching a staggering price of $40,000. Thank you for joining us today on Coin Collector's World, where every episode brings you closer to the hidden value inside your pocket change. Remember to subscribe, like, and share so more collectors can join our growing community of treasure hunters. Keep searching, keep collecting, and never stop believing that the next coin you find could be the discovery of a lifetime. Until next time, this is Coin Collector's World, where coins tell stories and collectors make history.